everybody, this is Rose of Sharon, and I'm back again with another movie review. I just recently watched Mad God. Of course, I had heard quite a few things about it, read a few things about it. I had no earthly idea what I was in for. I'm a huge fan of stop motion animation. I also like films that are considered experimental or surreal. This was by far one of the weirdest, most bizarre, unbelievable, gory, disgusting, yet so very intriguing. And it's the macabre, the very bizarre nature of it that makes the viewer want to keep watching even though they don't feel like they should continue watching. It is a very visceral experience that I don't think I want to experience again, although there are some moments with some just absolutely beautiful yet Cronenbergian animation. And there's one character I particularly liked a lot just because of how he was designed, and I thought, oh, he's gorgeous, he's levitating, and I just thought that was beautiful. I mean, even in a film that's got a lot of death, got a lot of gore, filth, and there's no dialogue. There's zero dialogue in this, which is very interesting. I like films that are unique in this way, that can tell a story through pictures or through emotion or just through action in and of themselves. It's basically a movie that speaks of a society destroying itself due to lack of who knows what. I don't know if it's because of this society's arrogance, because of this society's dependence on technology, which I think is depicted quite well with a lot of the wires and just how steampunk and cyberpunk this looks from first blush. I'm trying to analyze this as best as I can, given what I know about allegory in film, but I should have known from the very beginning that the main character is known as the assassin. I read about this, trying to make sense of it. He's brought down into a world or a realm that's completely alien, and he's supposed to plant a bomb somewhere. For what reason, we don't really know. It's just he's taken away by this Reaper creature. It's, screams when it drags him away because they're these monsters. They're titans and they're gnomish creatures. There are beings that have no real definition. They're just atrocious to look upon and nightmarish and hellish nightmare fuel landscape that looks like something Dante could have concocted. It's just horrifying, and I don't know. There's so much going on here that I can't really make heads or tails out of it. But I think a lot of it was allegorical for man's dependence on technology rather than man, and you see a lot of corruption occurring, and it felt like there was war and violence and brutality and cruelty happening. I mean, I understood that. It kind of felt like World War II on crack to me, and because there's this part where one of the characters has been captured, and they do vivisection, and this is actually very uncomfortable for me. So, because I don't like that sense of being catatonic. You're awake, you can feel everything, you can sense everything, and yet you can do nothing. And I realized this character's being killed, and they open him up and they reveal jewelry and all this other treasure inside, and it reminded me of how the Nazis took from the Jews in the Holocaust. I don't know why I made that connection, but I thought that is so much similar to that. And of course, there's a map made out of human flesh. I thought, yeah, they made furniture and lampshades out of the Holocaust victims' flesh. And I think there was one particular officer who had those on display in his house, perhaps. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's one that was known as the Butcher or something like that. And he had a collection of lampshades and whatnot, this certain things that were designed out of flesh. And I mean, the so gross. And there are moments where I had actual reactions. I almost threw up. So this is one of those movies that I don't think I'll be watching again, just because of how disturbing it was. It was very disturbing. This is not for children. However, I'd have to say that the animation itself, it almost felt real. Because actually they had actual actors, so it was live action and stop motion. So I liked that. I thought, hey, this is new and different. This is something I've never seen before. You've got all this, there's this man's inhumanity to man. That's how I'm going to define this movie. Is if you want to see what happens with a vengeful god who just is tired of humanity's crap, yeah. And this is what is doled out. There's no benevolence. There's just only cruelty. So, and yet there's actually some moments of great resplendence. There's a moment of creation that occurs within the movie, but then of course it gets worse as time goes on, as you think, oh my god, why? But even in the large and the small, with creatures that are kept as pets, you see that. And then the experiments with the caged monkeys, and that disturbed me, because I love animals, so I almost had to look away. But as far as movies are concerned, I'm gonna give it a high mark. Actually, I'm gonna give it 3, because I thought it was sensationally done. But there's no coherence here, even though I was trying to make semblance of plot. Like, there must be some kind of allegory. The only allegory I could make out of it was when the assassin was heading down to the alien world in his little elevator. He's descending, and inside of this cage you see skeletal birds. You think they had their mouths open like that, like they're screaming. And I thought, yeah, this is allegory. But it's shown in so many different ways. There's just agony, there's pain, there's torture. There's absolutely no, it's bleak. Let me just put it that way. I had to think of the right adjective. Bleak is a good word, actually. A good definitive word to describe Mad God. And I just have to say it. I won't be able to watch this ever again, but I will give it it gets a thumbs up as far as I'm concerned, for animation, and for ingenuity, for creativity, for uniqueness, for being so gritty and disturbing and unsettling. And I think there is actually a lot to take away. This is a what if cautionary tale. And of course the humans here they were depicted as the monsters they were, but yet it there doesn't really seem to be much of a chicken or egg kind of scenario here for why this is the way it is. It just is. And like I said, there's no real context here. There's no real mechanism of plot. I mean, it is interesting in and of itself, but the fact that nothing was really resolved and it just sort of let you sit with your emotion and kind of try to process it the best you can and analyze it. Like, I really want to know what's going on in this movie, to be honest, because it was difficult for me to piece together, and I can usually piece things together. And this, I thought, what kind of message is the filmmaker trying to go for here, other than this is all about cruelty, and it just gets worse, and there's no hope, and it's kind of depressing. So yeah, I don't think Mad God was for me, though I liked the creativity behind. I liked the ingenuity behind it. I liked the creativity behind it. I liked the stop motion, the work that went into that. But it didn't really go anywhere. There was nowhere for the plot to go. It's just sort of, kind of, you're thrown into it with what little descriptors you're given, and that's all you get. So I can't say I liked it. I can't say I hated it. I'm ambivalent in the whole feeling of utter, just absolute recoil. I had recoil watching this, and I don't get that. I've watched Tokyo Shock, so for me this was very difficult. And I've seen movies like Grave of the Fireflies, which makes me cry, but it's actually one of my favorite films. I can watch it again because even though I know how it's going to end, it's one of my favorite films, and I like war films. So this is different. This is more on the line of Boy in the Striped Pajamas territory for me, or Passion of the Christ territory. It's just that whole sick feeling. I feel nauseous. It made me actually feel like I was gonna puke, and I do not get that. I do not have that with movies. The only other movie that kind of gave me that feeling, and it was more based on my fear, Das Boot, it was another one. I know people like look at me like I'm weird, but I cannot watch Das Boot, and I don't know why. I may think this gave me. I felt very claustrophobic watching that movie. It was very unnerving for me. It was very unsettling for me, and this is another one of those films that I can't. I won't. I cannot put myself through that. But I have to say that artistically, or design wise, I have to say I like what the character did with. I like what the director did with his characters, how he designed them, his actors, how he made them look, just lack of light, just the whole very dark and unnerving, ominous, eerie feel that this had from the very beginning. So beyond that, would I recommend this to other people? If they want to see something different and try to make some kind of sense out of it, then yeah, I mean, of course. That's what art is all about. I mean, it doesn't have to appeal to everybody. Art is it's in the eye of the beholder. It's all relative. It's all based on your perspective. As for me, I I'm ambivalent. I can't say whether I loved it or hated it. I'm right in the middle, and it's all uh, the emotion of being repulsed, I should say. But I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I looked into it. I'm glad I opened my mind and I experienced something new. So, yeah, I'm thinking that's why I like film. That's why I enjoy film. So, I had to say that as somebody who's creative, the stop motion process, it was so smooth. I did enjoy that. I thought that was very entertaining, even though there's a ton of death and gore and, emissions, bodily emissions and fluids that are, ugh. Sorry, I mean, that, like I said, I can't. And I have a strong stomach. I've seen things, I have experienced things that no other person should experience, even in my young age, from seeing death firsthand from my mother, and just the whole fear of that scene where the assassin is, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but when the assassin is opened up during that whole vivisection scene, that is one of my absolute fears. That is my most guttural fear, other than being buried alive. Being buried alive, going through a cave, not being able to crawl through the cave because I have slight claustrophobia, but being buried alive, dying alone is another fear I have, which, granted, I think we all die alone. So, I think even in death alone, I'll still see my relatives. So it's not going to be as bad as I perceive it. It's less of a fear than dying in pain. There are worse things than that. But just the whole catatonia. I don't know. The whole being alive, but you're not. I just, just heebie-jeebies. But beyond that, yeah, the Mad God was not for me. So that's all I have to say about it. Until next time, live long, prosper. Ciao, Tootsie.